Who knows? The next trip she could be on.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Uncle Ibo, time
Yes,
for food
madam.
for thoughts.
Great. Before I go on to the presentation, let me say that my next place, he said, she said, it is my 50th in 14 years. If you haven't watched any of the 50 that's so far, this is a good one to start with. So make sure you join us. Details will be on this platform, so just stay tuned and you'll be given the details. Marvy, every now and then I play a mental game that I call What If. This morning, I bring you a what if scenario, and the topic today is, what if Jesus stood for elections in Ghana? In other words, how would Jesus have fared as a politician in Ghana today? A politician needs a message. The message is supposed to tell the people of the candidate's vision. Most politicians have learned to preach a message that is nothing more but what a politician believes the electorate wants to hear. In other words, the message of a lot of politicians is not sincere, but put together just to get them votes. Now, if Jesus stood for elections in Ghana, how would he have fared in the message department? Well, he would not have deceived the people about what he was about, but he would have been totally sincere with them, even if it cost him votes or support, as was demonstrated during his ministry here on earth. He preached hope to the ordinary people, but was uncompromising in condemning those in authority for their injustice and corruption. This would have endeared him to the downtrodden, but earned him the hatred of the political elite. But that support from the downtrodden would not have lasted, because the downtrodden do not want to be told the truth. They want a politician who will tell them that their woes are the fault of someone else. But Jesus would have told them what they themselves could have done for themselves to make life easier for themselves. There is an interesting incident during his ministry on earth that is recorded in John chapter 6. He had just fed the 5,000 men, that is not counting the women and children, and had dispatched his disciples to the other side of the lake, that is to Capernaum. The next day, when the people realized that Jesus and his disciples had moved on, they got into boats and went after them. When they saw him, they asked him, "Rabbi, when did you get here?" Jesus told them, "You are looking for me because you ate the loaves and had your fill. Do not work for food that spoils, but for food that endures to eternal life," and on and on and on. Now, his disciples cautioned him that what he was doing was not too pleasant for the people. And eventually, a lot of his followers turned back and no longer followed him. It was on that occasion that he turned to the 12 and asked them, "Do you also want to leave?" A politician's words make or unmake him. Unfortunately, human nature being what it is, we reward those who tell us the truth with our rejection and withdrawal of support. And Jesus would have suffered that in Ghana. If Jesus stood for elections, I'm sure that he would have stood as an independent candidate. And he would have captured the imagination of the people to such an extent that would have alarmed the established political parties. They would then have buried their differences and united just to fight him and to try to defeat him. We saw this happen during his ministry on earth. Jesus was not a Pharisee, neither was he a Sadducee or any of the recognized groups of religious authorities. He insisted on being an outsider. Now, the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the others did not agree on a lot, but when it came to Jesus, they were very united, and that is how they managed to get him eliminated. I know a lot of people wish there was a very strong third force in politics in Ghana. I find a similar sentiment being expressed in the US, where many people wish there was another alternative to Republican and Democrat. Unfortunately, this is another case of if wishes were horses, and you know what follows. The truth is, the established parties have become very good at stifling any strong third force from emerging. And Jesus as a third force would have stood no chance of winning. But the biggest thing that would have raised eyebrows if Jesus stood for elections in Ghana would have been his campaign team. with Peter as his campaign manager, James and John as his spokespersons, with Mary Magdalene as the women's organizer and Judas as his treasurer, there would have been issues within the team right from the beginning, with Judas selling leaks to the opponents for money. A politician is as good only as the team around him, and the key people around Jesus would have caused him a lot of headaches. Indeed, even before the elections had come on, they would have been trying to divide the ministerial posts for themselves. Jesus would have been forced to rebuke them and tell them to stop their nonsense in public. And that is a quality a politician needs if he is to go far. A politician needs to be able to call his own people to order publicly. Too many politicians fail to do that and allows some members of their inner circle to create disaffection for them. And it is indeed unfortunate. Now, if Jesus stood for elections, there would have been court cases to try to get him disqualified. Eventually, through a series of legal and political manipulations, his opponents would have had their way, and Jesus would not only have been disqualified, but would have been convicted of sedition and possibly executed. But the wonderful thing about Jesus standing for elections is what would have happened after his opponents had gotten rid of him. His political party, after his death, would have gone on to become the dominant force in politics after enduring a few years of persecution and harassment. But now come to think of it, Jesus had actually stood for elections in Ghana at every elections. Jesus has stood for elections in all the candidates who had run for office claiming to be Christians and quoting the Bible as their inspiration, and in all the candidates that pastors and various men of God have endorsed as chosen by God. The question is, what difference have these made to politics and governance in Ghana? I wonder if those who identify boldly as Christians realize that in them and through them, Jesus stands for elections. At the very least, they are standing on the ticket of Jesus' party when they identify as Christians. And I wonder, what would Jesus say to them when they stand before him at the end of time? Would he embrace them and say, "Welcome, good and faithful servant"? Or would he say to them, "Depart from me, you worker of iniquity"? Christians need to know that in us, that is in us Christians, Jesus walks the streets. He sells in the market. He works in offices. He operates in politics. The question is, how well are we representing him? And this has been food for thought with me, Uncle Ebo White. And if you want to follow me beyond this presentation, please join me on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at Uncle Ebo White, and on Instagram at the Uncle Ebo White. Hi, handsome mischief.
Would you be assisting Peter as campaign manager?
Oh, I think I would like to be a foot soldier. Snatching ballot boxes for Christ. Aglevo.
Yeah, Kojo.
Yeah, you're surprising people.
Yeah. But the biggest surprise is that I have to say I miss you.
Oh.
And that is always pains me when I have to say that.
It surprises me that it surprises you.
Mavi,
It's been such
Yes,
a while,
Uncle
Uncle.
Ebo.
It's great to see
it's
you.
good to see you. And I'm happy I could come into the studio today.
Thank you so
can't wait till
much.
the next time.
I
We
will
can't
surprise you. I will surprise you very soon,
Hey,
Uncle Ebo.
are you also
I mean, he's
promising
always
surprises?
surprising me, yes.
Wow.
So I will surprise you, but I'm very grateful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I love you, Uncle Ebo.
Oh, I love you too.
Thank you.
I love you too.
Hey, money answereth all things.
No, this has nothing to do with
Mommy
money.
has never told me she loves me before.
Yours is coming. Just
No,
wait
like
for it.
My
now
bank
you are
account-
Kadosh. You are the Kadosh guy.
Kadosh. That's right. That's me.
Today I was wondering, so who dragged Kojo to church like yesterday? That suddenly
in the
Kojo has
spirit.
become sanctified.
I was in the spirit.
Thanks, Uncle Ebo, for food for thought.
It returns on Thursday, right?
Absolutely. And it's brought to us by